Welcome to this week's Security Report. I'm Paul McAdam. Thanks for joining us. The general public should note that as part of the measures against the COVID-19 pandemic, no applications for barbecue permits, fairs, parties, or any other public event will be processed at this time. Regional police commanders countrywide will not entertain such requests until further notice. Please remember that some coronaviruses can be transmitted from person to person, usually after close contact, for example, in a household, workplace, or healthcare setting. Some reports also indicate that persons who have not yet developed symptoms may be able to pass on the infection to others. If you have a fever, cough, or difficulty breathing, please call the Coronavirus 2019 hotline numbers 2274986, 2297490, 2311166, 2267480, or 6243555. Now let's tell you that visits to the prisons have been replaced with video calls amidst the current pandemic. According to the Director of Prisons, Davlin Samuels, the measures were implemented following a donation of electronic tablets by the Ministry of Public Telecommunications. Visits were suspended to all prisons to protect the staff and inmates from the spread of COVID-19. The tablets allow prisoners to contact family members via video conferencing using the free government Wi-Fi already in place at government penitentiaries. Now, only family members and attorneys at law representing inmates will be allowed to utilize this service. They will be required to send a request by email to the location where prisoners are housed. This will then be processed by an officer assigned to oversee the calls. A 31-year-old laborer of number 57 Village, East Berbice Quarantine was remanded to prison on April 17 after he pled not guilty to 3 counts of break-and-enter and larceny this month. Mahendra Rambaran, called Vicky, appeared at the number 51 Magistrates Court, where the charges were read via Skype. It is alleged that between April 17 to 18, he broke and entered the dwelling home of businessman Gansham Totaram of number 57 Village and stole $4,000 US and a number of alcoholic beverages valued at more than $100,000. Between April 10 to 11, it is alleged that he broke and entered the home of George Narain of number 52 Village and carted off groceries and household items valued more than $150,000. Further, it's alleged that he also stole one TCL 32-inch television set and groceries amounting to a value of more than $200,000, the property of Rita Khan of number 57 Village. He was remanded to prison until June 4, 2020. Glenn Ford, known as Joker or Black Boy, committed suicide after stabbing his wife several times at their Northeast Penitence Georgetown residence on April 25, according to the police. Divisional Commander Senior Superintendent Philip Azor said the incident occurred at about 4:45 p.m. at the couple's Calabash Alley residence. Investigators have already recovered a knife, and they'll be told by neighbors that Ford and his wife frequently had disagreements. After stabbing his wife, Ford slit his throat, jumped off a building, and subsequently died. A 42-year-old Ghana Defense Force Coast Guard rank died on April 25 after crashing his motorcycle on the Providence Public Road. Troy Phillips lost control of the motorcycle and collided with the concrete medium. He was picked up in an unconscious state and rushed to the Diamond Diagnostic Center, where he died receiving treatment. Former school principal, well-known Sir Arthur Chandra, was robbed of cash and jewelry at gunpoint during an invasion of his Bel Air Park residence. The incident occurred at about 1:30 a.m. on April 26, when a man pointed a gun to Sir Chandra's head and demanded that he hand over cash and gold that he had in his possession. Whilst he was held at gunpoint, other perpetrators ransacked the home and stole items. Chandra alleged that the robbers left the house through a door that they opened with his keys. Investigators have since questioned several persons, but they have not come up with any useful information thus far. They are expected to turn their attention to surveillance video footage to gain more clues. And a man known as Gepper has confessed to the murder of 62-year-old Tamishwari Sunilal, known as Leila Ramnath. The woman was stabbed to death on April 26 at her Lot 2 Good Hope Canal No. 1 Polo West Bank Demerara home between 1900 hours and 2030 hours. Kevin, known as Gipper, was on Monday apprehended, this is April 27, by the police at the Lekendran Public Road on the west coast of Demerara. Persons living in the area described the suspect as a drug addict and troublemaker. The taxi driver, who along with 3 others were injured on Monday night when his speeding car crashed into an electrical pole at Suesdijk, East Bank, Demerara, has died. The man has been identified as 28-year-old Christopher Nicholson. He, another man, and 2 teenagers aged 15 and 17 were rushed to the Diamond Hospital after the car, registration number HD crashed into the pole. Since the implementation of the nationwide curfew, there have been several fatal accidents along the roadways, and the police will be stringently implementing this curfew moving forward. The police are investigating the death of a 5-year-old boy who drowned during a fishing trip with his 30-year-old mother, Shalon Thomas, and 2 of her friends on Monday afternoon in Potentia on the west bank of Demerara. The child was said to be swimming when his mother noticed that he went under the water and did not resurface. He was eventually found, pulled out of the water, and taken to the West Demerara Regional Hospital and pronounced dead on arrival. The police are seeking advice from the Director of Public Prosecutions on the way forward. The family hails from Skull City in Potentia. And the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, in a statement on April 29, said over the last several days, batteries were being stolen from the cabinets of traffic signal systems. These are the systems installed at the following intersections: Sheriff Street and Garnet Street, Camp and Lemaha Avenue, Conversation Tree and Railway Embankment, and the UG Road and Rupert Craig Highway. The ministry is seeking the public's assistance in identifying the alleged perpetrators captured on closed-circuit television. This has been a recurring event, and the ministry wishes to notify perpetrators and those repurchasing those batteries that once found guilty and caught, the rule of law for destroying the government's property will be applied and they will be prosecuted accordingly. The ministry is therefore asking persons to refrain from vandalizing and stealing the much-needed public infrastructure. Let's tell you now that Romal Gardner was made an example of by the police after he was charged with breaching the number 1 restriction of the COVID-19 emergency measures, number 53, 2020, contrary to Section 21, Part 2 of the Public Health Ordinance, Chapter 145. The defendant was sentenced to an hour of standing in the sun and displaying the curfew notice as punishment for this breach. And the police on April 29 arrested 24-year-old Lennox Leon Eswick, who was wanted in connection with the murder of 44-year-old gold miner Dion Stall. The businessman was shot in front of the El Dorado Training Establishment at Lot 63 DeSilva Street, Newton Kitty, in October of 2019, the 14th. Ranks swooped down on a house at Lovers Lane, South Immediate Ward, Linden, at about 45 minutes past 12 on Thursday night, where they found Eswick with an unlicensed pistol, 4 live ammunition rounds, and 10 grams of suspected cannabis. His 21-year-old male brother, who was in the house, was also arrested. He was charged and placed before the Georgetown's Magistrate Court after the police also found him in possession of military clothing said to belong to the GDF. Stall, the businessman from Essequibo Coast and in Burima Avenue, Berry, Georgetown, died at the Georgetown Public Hospital after engaging in a shootout with the bandits in front of El Dorado Training at about 10:15 hours on the day in question. Saisnarine Bisnot, one of the 4 prisoners who recently escaped from the Luzignan Holding Bay area on April 19, was recaptured by members of the Ghana Police Force. Bisnot was on remand for armed robbery, and a press statement from the Ghana Police Force disclosed that he was recaptured at 20:30 hours on Wednesday in the cane fields back of the Betafo-Acting Slideline Dam on the east coast of Demerara. According to the police, he was caught without incident, even though he was armed with a cutlass. With the recapture of Bisnot, the 3 other prisoners remain on the lam. They are murder accused Kenrol Perez and Ganesh Danraj, along with Anthony Padmore, the latter who was being held for trafficking in cannabis. And police are investigating a fatal accident which occurred on Wednesday, April 29, at about 20:35 hours on the Unity Public Road, Mahaika, East Coast, Demerara. This was involving a motorcycle CK777 driven by Take North Samlal, a 34-year-old supervisor of a security company who lived at Lot 5, Lancaster, Unity. The motorcyclist was proceeding west along the southern carriageway, reportedly at a fast rate of speed, when he lost control, collided with a utility pole on the southern parapet, and fell onto the road. He was rushed to the Myconi Cottage Hospital in an unconscious state, but pronounced dead on arrival. Let's tell you now that the bodies of 4, including a father and son, were recovered in the vicinity of Friendship Village several hours after the wooden boat collided with a much larger motorized vessel in the Berbice River on Wednesday night. At around 1400 hours, the bodies of Romario Denart, 24, of Lot 41, Stanley Town, New Amsterdam, and his cousin Julian Mackenzie, 56, of Sand Hills, were transported by the Coast Guard, who made a discovery, to New Amsterdam. The bodies of Godfrey Denart, known as Freeman, 50, of Hartburn Village from the East Bank, Berbice, and Kidman Lindy of Sand Hills were found 2 hours later. The men's boat was proceeding south along the Berbice River when it collided with another vessel which was going in the opposite direction. The second vessel was captained by 39-year-old Marvin Kassoon of Shitanko Village, East Kanji, Berbice. He had 4 occupants. Kassoon, now in custody, apparently fled the scene initially, but his companions, a 20-year-old laborer of Maria Henrietta Village, Berbice River, a 51-year-old laborer of Adelphi Village in the Quarantine Berbice area, and a 23-year-old laborer of Number 2 Village were arrested. They were caught at the Edinburgh Village, East Bank, Berbice. They were found to be in possession of 32 taped parcels of cannabis, which when weighed amounted to some 36.97 kilograms. The 5th occupant of that boat, who lives at Palmyra Village in the Quarantine, is being sought. Now let's tell you some sad news from the Ghana Defense Force. Even though the ranks remain in line in keeping with regulations during this post-elections period, they have launched an inquiry into the cause of an explosion on April 30 at 9 hours at Camp Stevenson's ammunition store complex. This explosion left 3 soldiers dead and 1 wounded. The ranks were preparing pyrotechnics for demolition. According to the Chief of Staff, this incident is being treated with the highest urgency, and he's offered his sincerest condolences to the families of the deceased. Earlier this year, a soldier lost his life and several were injured in a fireworks explosion while preparing to celebrate Ghana's Jubilee Republic anniversary in February. That fireworks celebration was subsequently cancelled. Now, on this week's wanted list, the force has issued a wanted bulletin for 33-year-old Marisa Ahmad, known as Marisa Ali, in connection with simple larceny committed on Stanislaus McCoy. Police headquarters said that the woman of Annandale, East Coast, Demerara, committed the offense on February 4, 2020 at the Ocean Spray Hotel in Stanley Place, Katy, Georgetown. Also wanted is 18-year-old Stephen Archibald in connection with the murder of 23-year-old Kyle Chase. Chase was stabbed to death on December 30, 2019 at Mazroni Street in Guy Hawk Park. Police gave Archibald's last known address as Lot 136 Victoria Street, All Boys Town, Georgetown. Now, anyone with information that may lead to the arrest of Stephen Archibald is asked to contact the police on telephone numbers 226-6978, 225-8196, 226-2870, 226-7065, 227-1149, 226-7065-911, or their nearest police station. Now, that's it for this week's Security Report. Stay safe out there.